My boss got his heart broken. I took a screenshot to gloat with my bestie, but I accidentally sent it to him instead. He slowly typed back a question mark. You're here to laugh at me, too? To save my job, I bit the bullet and replied, no, of course not. All that drinking and smoking is bad for you. I'm just worried. Boss, sorry, but I'm not the other man. You should give up now. 10 minutes passed. Anyway, wanna see my abs? Just worked out. Today is Valentine's Day. I made a point of posting a photoshopped pic of me and my celebrity crush. Our 3rd year together. Less than half an hour later, something got posted in the main company group chat, and my coworkers went wild. Turns out, a new rule had just been issued: no one is allowed to take Valentine's Day off. Everyone was calling it insane. We moved the conversation to our private group chat. Mr. Jones, the secretary, said the boss made up the rule on the spot. I heard a rumor he got dumped. Someone can dump a guy like Mr. Vance? The thought that even a guy with Julian Vance's face can be torn up over love makes me feel a little better about my own life. No one could focus on work. Everyone was trying to figure out who this mystery woman was. The one who had ruined our unattainable Ice King, Julian Vance. Hey Sophie, don't you have the boss on WhatsApp? See if he's posted anything on his feed. I played dumb. Can't see anything. He probably blocked me. In reality, I immediately clicked on Julian Vance's social feed. He had just posted one sentence: why does she still love that guy? I guess I'm just not attractive to her. The location tag was a bar. He definitely got his heart broken. In the spirit of sharing gossip, I took a screenshot to dish about it with my bestie. Right after I sent it, my supervisor brought over a file for me to handle. I immediately pretended to be absorbed in my work. After she left, a notification popped up on my phone. A second later, I wasn't smiling anymore. Because I'd sent the screenshot to the man himself. They're all making fun of me. You're here to laugh at me, too? His tone was dripping with misery. I panicked. Julian Vance, Sophie, what is the meaning of this? It's over. The boss is pissed. To save my job, I bit the bullet and replied, no, of course not. All that drinking and smoking is bad for you. I'm just so worried. Boss, you have to take care of yourself. If you're gone, who else is going to give me this dream job with a 6-figure salary, 10 to 5 hours, triple overtime pay, plenty of time to slack off, and weekends off? The typing bubble appeared on his end. I waited nervously. Julian Vance, I'm sorry, but I'm not the other man. You should give up. Did the heartbreak scramble his brain? Or did he send that to the wrong person? Did he think I was his ex-girlfriend? 10 minutes passed. Anyway, wanna see my abs? Just worked out. When I got that message, my whole phone felt like it was on fire. A coworker walked by my desk. Feeling like a thief, I quickly shoved my phone into my pocket. When I got home, I realized I hadn't locked my phone. I'd accidentally spammed Julian with about 1,000,000 I want you stickers. At first, the man was not receptive. Sophie, I'm your boss. Please respect me. I'd like to keep our relationship professional. But after the sticker bombing assault, he seemed to give in with a sigh. Fine. Whatever makes you happy. But I don't want a third person to know about this relationship. It's a matter of my dignity, after all. Half an hour had passed since that last message. The boss was waiting for my reply. I was squatting by the elevator, racking my brain. My next-door neighbor came back from walking her dog. Hey Sophie, just getting off work? I nodded mournfully. Another late night. The overtime pay came with a bonus for mental and physical anguish, but that didn't stop me from hating it. My neighbor chuckled. You work so hard every day, and your salary's pretty good. You must have a nice nest egg saved up. The golden retriever at her feet was still hyper. It barreled into everyone it saw. I was the unlucky victim. And it wasn't over. The dog snatched my phone as it flew out of my hand, kicking off a two-person, one-dog chase. An hour later, I finally wrestled the slobber-covered, chewed-to-hell phone from the dog's mouth. My neighbor was mortified and immediately sent me some money. My little monster caused you so much trouble. I'll pay for double the cost. Well, all right then. I accepted it with tears in my eyes. The good news, the phone still worked. The bad news, it had a mind of its own. The kind where you tell it to go left, and it insists on going right. Julian had been waiting for a while and couldn't resist pinging me again. Sophie, are you in or not? I've been thinking about it, and this whole thing is just absurd. It's beneath my station. If anyone found out, what would they think of me? You know? This would be my first time. If you're not interested, just say so. To be honest, I'm not that into the idea either. I'm not that kind of person. If you're not interested, fine, but why leave me on read? I can see you've been typing this whole time. Fine, forget it. But don't tell anyone about this. Please. I tried to type no. But this stupid phone, completely out of my control, started rattling off gibberish on the keyboard. Sent, okay. I'm so screwed. I frantically mashed the unsend button. But the stupid phone started freaking out again. It sent a series of kissy face stickers. A minute later, Julian coolly replied with a simple mm. My phone was still on its death march. Julian Vance, it's only the first day. Is this really okay? I'm pretty old-fashioned. I don't want to move this fast. I've never been in a relationship. What's the first step? Then, in utter despair, I watched as my phone automatically sent him an I want to sleep with you sticker. Julian seemed stunned. Speechless, he managed to type back a strained sentence. You're so forward, Sophie. Son of a bitch. Furious, I threw the phone directly into the sink full of water. If I'm going down, you're coming with me. The next day, I snuck into the office. I casually asked a coworker, hey, I heard the morning meeting was cancelled. Coworker, yeah, the boss took the day off. A wave of relief washed over my face. Great. I can play dumb for another day. I'd taken my phone to a repair shop. The guy said it would be ready by evening, so I didn't bother buying a new one. I had no idea what Julian's final reply was. My supervisor came over. Sophie, I need you to go to the hospital and get this file signed by Mr. Vance. It's urgent. I instantly felt my anxiety spike. I made it all the way to his hospital room door but couldn't bring myself to go in. Sophie? It was Mr. Jones, the secretary, holding a bowl of congee. My expression was a little unnatural. Then I had an idea. Mr. Jones, I'm just here to get a file signed by the boss. Perfect timing, you can. That's great. I actually have to run. Could you give this congee to the boss for me? Mr. Jones was in as much of a hurry to leave as he was to arrive. He thoughtfully knocked on the door for me. Mr. Vance, Sophie's here. A cool, indifferent "oh" came from inside. I gave myself a pep talk. Even my footsteps were cautious. The man in the hospital bed turned to look at me. His gaze was chilling. I gave an awkward greeting. Good morning, Mr. Vance. Julian looked aggrieved. It's not good at all. I didn't dare move. After a long time, the man asked plaintively, are you just going to let me starve to death, girlfriend? My hand trembled as I passed him the bowl. Mr. Vance, about last night. I need 10 minutes of your time to explain. Julian was genuinely hungry. He focused on eating. Without looking up, he said, I'm listening to your explanation. 10 minutes later. So that's what happened. I didn't send any of those messages, I said, sitting up straight and glancing nervously at him. An unreadable smile flashed in his eyes. you don't have a boyfriend? I nodded emphatically. He's a small-time singer I've been a fan of for years. Since he's not very famous, you're not the first person to get the wrong idea. After I said that, I realized his focus was off. I reminded him, boss, please don't think I sent that screenshot to make fun of you. Heaven as my witness, I'm completely loyal to you. Julian slowly and deliberately wiped his hands. So, what you're saying is, you accidentally screenshotted my post and sent it to me, were forced to say those things, then a dog happened to steal your phone, which just so happened to break, and then it just so happened to confess its love to me on its own. I nodded with a determined look in my eyes. Yes, Mr. Vance. That's exactly right. The misunderstanding was cleared up. But just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the man sneered, Sophie, do I look that gullible? On the verge of tears, I shook my head. He began his one-sided tirade. Do you have any idea how long I waited outside your apartment last night? My voice was a whisper. Then why didn't you come up and find me? He shot me a glare. Is this a glamorous role for me to be playing? True, it was a messy situation. And did you know it got cold last night? It was freezing. Julian was clearly fuming. Do you even have a heart? I stole a glance at him. Out of nowhere, I blurted out an internet meme, so. Wanna go crack open a cold one? Julian kicked me out. He said he needed some space. He told me to go stand in a corner somewhere. After I got my phone back that evening, I urgently opened up our chat. At first, Julian had sternly rejected my I want to sleep with you message. Sophie, I expect you to have some self-respect. I'm not that kind of person. That definitely sounded like him. When Julian first arrived, he couldn't find a secretary right away, so I filled in for a while. I handed him a cup of coffee once. The man's hand accidentally brushed against mine. He blushed and said, "Excuse me." It's a professional habit, but when I saw his cuff was messy, I instinctively reached out to fix it. The man quickly pulled his hand back. Without looking up, he said, I'll do it myself. There was even another time when Julian had a late-night business dinner and his driver had an emergency. I went to pick him up. He was squatting on the curb, staring at me in a daze for a long time. The next day, he informed me. Don't go on errands like that anymore. It's not safe. Julian was a perfect gentleman with an impeccable temper. But that didn't stop him from being a stickler when it came to work. Because of this, many people's crushes on his handsome face quickly faded. I was no exception. At a company team building event a while back, everyone took advantage of Julian's absence to let loose. The questions were all about him. Someone asked me, Sophie, what would you do if you ended up on a blind date with the boss? I blurted out, run for the hills. No matter how great he is, he's still my boss. Who would ever develop feelings for their boss? Anyway, I would absolutely never be interested in my boss, even if he looked like a god. I got more and more carried away, not noticing that the man himself was standing right behind me, listening to the whole thing. Before he left, he couldn't resist asking, do you really dislike me that much? I slapped my cheeks. Stop thinking about that cringy incident. I kept scrolling through our chat history. The more I read, the more my smile stiffened. Julian's last message was sent at 1 a.m. He had written, come downstairs. I'll let you kiss me. That's it. We're not sleeping together. And then I had passed out, leaving him hanging all night. I carefully drafted and redrafted my message in the text box before finally sending it. Boss, don't worry, I promise no one will ever find out about our situation. So could you also just pretend nothing ever happened? The boss didn't reply, but he did post a new picture to his feed. It was a photo of his hand with an 4 drip in it. The caption read, in the end, I bore it all alone. My conscience pricked me, and I added another message, please take care of yourself. I'll come see you again soon. The man replied instantly. When is soon? As you know, I'm very busy. Forget it. I happen to have a meeting near your place. I guess I can wait for you for a bit. Come downstairs. And so, I found myself in my 20 fleece-lined pajamas, sneaking into a deluxe Rolls-Royce parked on the street below my building. The moment I got in, I was caught off guard by how handsome Julian's face was. A bespoke suit, black leather shoes with red soles, he exuded sophistication from head to toe. No wonder. The male leads in novels always say, you can't even compare to a single strand of her hair. I felt so inadequate. Why are you staring at me like that? Julian must still have a cold. He lowered his head and coughed a few times. The coughing itself wasn't a big deal, but it made his face and ears turn red. I felt a bit awkward. I answered honestly, with a touch of exaggeration, Boss, you look handsome even when you're sick. For a second, I thought a novel hero had walked into real life. The man's eyes held a hint of shyness as he asked, Is that so? What kind of novels do you read? My brain moved faster than my mouth. Gay romance. Julian. The next day at work, Mr. Jones, the secretary, called in sick. The boss needed someone to fill in. They had to pick someone temporarily. My coworkers all raised their hands. I played deaf and dumb. Then, in the process of swatting a mosquito, my supervisor's gaze locked onto me. Sophie, since you're so eager, you're up. Me? Afterward, the supervisor explained, you've worked by Mr. Vance's side before, so you're familiar with his ways. You're the most suitable choice. My main issue was the recent awkwardness with Julian. My supervisor cut right to the chase. I hear it comes with an extra $1,000 a month. I grabbed her hand. You've definitely picked the right person. That afternoon, I moved my things to another office. Having the boss as my direct supervisor was kind of cool. While he was out, I started slacking off again. I saw that Mr. Jones had updated his social feed. It was a 9-photo grid of a beach view. The feeling of a triple-paid vacation is just awesome. I'm voting for Mr. Vance for chairman again next election. Confused, I left a comment, Mr. Jones, are you feeling better? The next second, the post disappeared. Mr. Jones sent me a private message, you saw wrong. That's a picture from the hospital. I'm just finding humor in my misery. It's, like, abstract art. I couldn't really doubt him further. I could only offer some comfort, take care of yourself. Mr. Jones, Sophie, you have to treat the boss well. He's really been through a lot. Julian had been hospitalized for a bad flu. He only stayed for 1 day. Then he threw himself back into work, still sick. The man stood in the drafty wind, a coat draped over his shoulders, occasionally coughing into his fist. The back of his hand was still bruised from the fall. He looked fragile, pitiful, and utterly miserable. Especially when I saw what a coworker posted in our private group chat. I heard the boss stood outside his girlfriend's apartment all night trying to get her back and caught a cold. I heard the boss grew up in and out of hospitals, he's always been frail. A small cold could take 3 years off his life. I heard his family had a fortune teller predict he wouldn't live past 25. So that's what Mr. Jones meant when he said Julian had it rough. Reading it filled me with both guilt and pity. My attitude became incredibly solicitous. After parking the car, I took out a new scarf and opened an umbrella. I jogged over to him. Julian was a little flattered, a slight smile playing on his lips. What are you doing here? Worried about his cold, I told him to lower his head. The man was very obedient. As he leaned down, he smelled faintly of disinfectant. Mr. Jones is sick, so I've been assigned to take over his duties for now. By the way, Mr. Vance, what's wrong with Mr. Jones? It sounds pretty serious. Otherwise, they wouldn't have me fill in for a whole month. Julian averted his gaze and stammered, I don't know. Maybe a broken bone or something. I didn't think much of it. Julian's house wasn't far. During the half-hour drive, I tried my best to make conversation. But I was careful to avoid the topic of his love life. "Mr. Vance, what made you decide to come to this branch?" This was just one of Vance Corp's subsidiaries. When news broke that the heir apparent was coming to manage it, many people were shocked. I was shocked for another reason. The name Julian Vance was exactly the same as his. The man was reading a file, but he looked up at my question. "Fate, I guess." I said from the heart, "Well, it's a wonderful fate. I love this fate." If Julian hadn't come and tripled all the company benefits, would have quit this dump long ago. It was quite a coincidence. The day he arrived, I had just been complaining to my bestie in the elevator. "I can't stand this dump of a company for another second. That manager keeps sending me flowers one day and asking me out the next. He calls me into his office in front of everyone and says he wants to pursue me. Please, it's workplace harassment, not a courtship. I quit my last job because my boss suddenly went crazy and confessed his love for me. Now I'm dealing with this crap all over again. I'm so over it." I was on a roll, but halfway through my rant, I realized there was someone else in the elevator. It would be rude to turn and stare. So I tried to make out his appearance in the reflection on the elevator wall. He was tall, lean, with fair skin. Those three things alone told me he was handsome. His head was turned, so I couldn't see his face clearly. My bestie on the phone was asking for an update. My attention snapped back. I continued, "You always hear about people falling for their teachers in school, their drill sergeants in training, or their bosses at work. Is it so hard to find someone to like that I have to resort to a coworker? Anyway, it's never happening in this lifetime." As I said that, the man in my peripheral vision seemed to stiffen for a moment, standing up a little straighter. I ignored him. The more I talked, the angrier I got. Worst case, I'll just quit. This pathetic company doesn't even have any cute guys, the pay is mediocre, and it's not like I can't find something better. And then, the next day, a ridiculously handsome guy showed up. The day after that, I got a raise. On the fourth day, the manager who had been harassing me was fired. Before he left, he even gave me a deep, respectful bow of apology. I was feeling pretty smug. My praise seemed to have struck a chord with Julian. He lowered his head and smiled faintly. "Yes, I think so too. This fate is wonderful." I was so mesmerized I lost my mind. I blurted out, "By the way, Mr. Vance, about those abs. Was that offer for real?" After he'd said it, I never replied, and the topic was just dropped. What a shame. The man's smile vanished instantly. He turned his head away. The ear I could see was impossibly red. "Sophie, just drive." I realized I had just flirted with my boss. How utterly disrespectful. I sat up straight and focused on driving. A hesitant voice came from the back seat. "I'll show you later." Is this really happening? Of course, I didn't have the heart to make him do it. Making him take off his shirt, what if he caught a cold again? After the man got out of the car, I fussed over him like a mother hen, wrapping the scarf around his neck. "Mr. Vance, you absolutely have to take care of yourself." Julian hesitated, and then hesitated some more. Finally, he couldn't hold it in. "I'm not as fragile as you think. I just took a cold shower that day, and that's why the wind made me sick." I didn't dare say it out loud. "You deserve to get sick. Who takes a cold shower in the middle of winter? Were you trying to put out a fire or something? Is that little Sophie?" A woman's voice suddenly appeared, startling me. Julian pulled me aside, looking surprised. "Mom, aren't you supposed to be on vacation?" In my own shock, I slowly said, "Mrs. Vance?" The woman beamed and said yes. I instantly felt my courage shrink. Mrs. Vance was my elementary school homeroom teacher. I was a naughty kid back then and brought a golden hamster to school to show off. Mrs. Vance confiscated it. I cried my eyes out. I knelt and cried in her office, I lay on the floor and cried, I rolled around and cried. I cried until Mrs. Vance finally gave in. If you pass your math final, I'll give it back to you. So I studied diligently. And I barely managed to pass. But after a month apart, my golden hamster had turned into a golden hamster pig. It was so fat its eyes were squinted shut. It was a little greasy. I adamantly refused to believe it was my original hamster. Mrs. Vance scratched her head and explained, "Sorry about that. My son has been taking care of it. I didn't expect this to happen either." With that, she pulled a little boy out from behind her. "Julian, hurry up and apologize to the nice girl." I looked up, my eyes still puffy with tears. I was captivated by the pale, beautiful little boy in front of me. He was a bit shy. He stood on his tiptoes and patted my head. "I'm sorry. I'll put him on a diet." "Don't cry, miss." I turned into a cartoon wolf lusting after a steak. I shamelessly said, "Pinky promise. If you can't, you'll have to give me yourself instead." His eyes widened slightly. "Huh? And then what?" "Nothing. Due to family reasons, I transferred schools. Mrs. Vance quit her job and took Julian abroad. We never contacted each other again. At first, I just thought it was a coincidence that these two people had the same name. I never expected it to be this much of a coincidence. After catching up with me, Mrs. Vance shot him a glare. "It's all because I saw your social media post." I rushed back to get a look at my future. "Mom," Julian's tone suddenly turned serious. "Don't say the wrong thing." Mrs. Vance paused for a few seconds, then seemed to understand. She took my hand. "Sophie, you have to come visit me more often. I'm so bored." Julian coolly and dispassionately pulled my hand from his mother's grasp. "She's my secretary." The two of them started bickering. She grabbed my hand again. Yours, what's yours? She's not your girlfriend. Don't be so possessive with me. I was Sophie's teacher, I'm way more important than you." I was completely lost. Julian's face began to turn red. He gritted his teeth. "Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing between us. We're just colleagues." Mrs. Vance huffed. "Sophie might not have feelings for you, but you sure do. When I took you abroad, you cried your eyes out, and you came back every single year to look for her." The man pressed his lips together, wanting to say something but holding back. With a beet red face, he just told me to go home early. Then he stormed off toward his house without another word. Mrs. Vance ignored him and leaned in to tell me, "When this kid couldn't find you, he cried so hard he ended up in the hospital. Later, I had to pull a lot of strings and use my connections at the school to find out where you were. He came back every single year hoping to find you. But you know how shy Julian is. The year you graduated high school, he finally worked up the courage to go to your school with a bouquet of flowers, only to see you holding hands with some other guy. He came back with tears streaming down his face. After that, he never mentioned your name again." "Wow, so that's what happened. No wonder I used to get Happy New Year texts every year. At the time, I just figured they were for the phone's previous owner. So I didn't think much of it. When I got home, I pinged the man on WhatsApp. 'Boss, did you recognize me from the very beginning?' Julian, yeah. Then why didn't you say anything? Never mind girls changing a lot as they grow up, guys do, too. I honestly didn't recognize him. Julian said, 'I was afraid you wouldn't remember me. And I was afraid it would be a burden if I told you.' My high school class group chat, which had been silent for ages, suddenly lit up with talk of a reunion. The class president specifically tagged me, 'Sophie, you skipped last year. You can't flake on us this time.' I sent a screenshot to my bestie to complain. I made sure to double check who I was sending it to this time. It's just a contest to see who bought a car and who bought a house. If you have them, they get jealous. If you don't, they get smug. What's the point of going?" My bestie agreed, especially that class president. He was the biggest tattletale. I chopped my hair short back then to save time, and he kept saying I didn't look like a girl, that I was weird. What a psycho. I remembered it all too clearly. Back then, the school was super strict about cracking down on puppy love. There was a 20 reward for reporting couples. My bestie and I made it onto the public shame list 5 times in 1 week. Half of those were because of him. As my workday was ending, the class group was still buzzing. More and more people were tagging me. I heard you got a job at Vance Corp. That's the best company around here. Don't forget about your old classmates now that you're successful. Leave her alone. It would be so awkward for Sophie to see the class president and those guys. Oh, so that's why Sophie refused to come last time. I get it now. The class president, Chad, came out and put on a show of being magnanimous. All right, let's not bring up Sophie's painful memories. I wouldn't know how to console her. I forgot to mention. The reason Chad always targeted me back then was that he thought I had a crush on him and was playing hard to get by not confessing. God knows I explained it a million times. I was always looking in his direction because the blackboard was there. I'm nearsighted. Now I hear this guy with his unwarranted confidence is getting married. To a rich girl, no less. No wonder he was so insistent I come to the reunion. My bestie tagged me in the group. You haven't told them? The group's curiosity was instantly piqued. I played along. I was just afraid no one would believe me. Chad pressed for an answer. Me, well, I got lucky a couple of years ago and won a multi-million-dollar lottery. So I just bought a few houses, started a few companies, and they're doing pretty well. I just got back from a conference overseas. When you have money, you start to prioritize your health, you know? So, about this reunion. The implication being, you're not worth my time. Chad's defenses crumbled. You're lying. There's no way you're rich. I sent a shrugging emoji. See? I told you you wouldn't believe me. Then, my bestie and I each dropped a passive-aggressive meme and left the group. We didn't expect them to believe it. The point was to make them think there was a 1% chance it was true and a 99% chance it wasn't, but without anyone to confirm or deny it. I had to work on Saturday. I drove Julian to a business dinner. I was the designated driver. On the way, the man was still coughing. I expressed my concern tactfully. Mr. Vance, you should probably drink less. It's not good for you. I was terrified he'd go in vertical and come out horizontal. How would I explain that to his family? The man's lips twitched into a slight smile. Are you telling me what to do? He was probably reminding me that I was overstepping. I immediately shook my head. No. I didn't say anything. Julian persisted. Repeat what you just said. I didn't dare. I was wrong, boss, I was so wrong. I stubbornly insisted, I didn't say anything just now. Julian's voice started to sound strange. Yes, you did. You definitely said something. I changed the subject. We're here, boss. Please just go. The man slammed the car door shut. He walked around to my driver's side window and knocked. My heart pounded as I rolled it down a crack. He said viciously, I'm going to drink. I'm going to drink myself to death. With that, he turned and stalked off arrogantly. What could I even say to that? Good for you, buddy. A waiter at the entrance led the way. When Julian entered the private room, everyone inside stood up. Mr. Vance. Please, everyone, sit. He chose a seat by the window. From there, he could see his car down below. Inside, a woman's head was lightly bumping against the steering wheel as she muttered something to herself. A small smile touched the corners of Julian's eyes. He pulled his gaze away. Let's begin. The dinner had been arranged by the other party. The venue was respectable but nothing special. Julian raised a hand, refusing the glass of wine being offered to him. I'm sorry, I don't drink. The other person was taken aback. Is something not to your satisfaction, Mr. Vance? He smiled faintly. No, not at all. I've quit drinking. No one else tried to persuade him. The meeting went by faster than usual. Mainly because the man at the head of the table seemed distracted, frequently glancing out the window. He set down his teacup. Well then, if that's all, I'll be taking my leave. Julian never liked to handle business outside the office. Nothing was more efficient than resolving things in a conference room. He was the last to arrive and the first to leave. No one dared to object. As he left, the man's pace was slightly hurried. A murmur of admiration rose from the private room. Mr. Vance is so busy, the fact that he came at all really shows respect. I was getting tired of sitting in the car. I got out for some fresh air. Unexpectedly, I ran into someone I knew. Sophie? Chad was walking over with his girlfriend. He was the class president. I'd called a moron. Didn't you say you weren't coming? It clicked. So this was where they were having their reunion. I had no intention of making small talk. I'm here for work, I said flatly. Driving my boss around is work, isn't it? Chad's attention was on the car behind me. A brand new Aston Martin. One of many in Julian's garage. He drove a different one each week. The man's eyes were full of doubt. Was what you said today true? I nodded without batting an eye. Of course it was. This is just my cheapest one. I gave it to the sugar baby I'm keeping just the other day. Chad and his girlfriend exchanged a look. Neither of them believed me. He laughed. I have a feeling you're lying. You're a woman. How could you possibly afford a car like this? He was right about that. I definitely couldn't afford it. But I could sure pretend. I was about to retort when I saw Julian walking out. Oh, crap. Why is he out so fast? What do I do? What do I do? I was starting to lose my cool. The man looked composed, carrying his jacket and with his shirt sleeves rolled up. Miss Sue, allow me to take you home. I was stunned. What did he just call me? Chad and his girlfriend turned around. He sneered, while she looked starstruck. Is that your sugar baby? Just another pretty boy. You women all fall for that type. So tacky. I got flustered. He's not. That's right, I'm her sugar baby, Julian interrupted. He even came over and took my hand, his expression innocent. Sweetheart, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Huh? Wow, Julian's hand was so warm. I couldn't help but squeeze a little too hard. He squeezed my hand back even tighter. He was playing along so well. Just like Mr. Jones, I'm voting for him for chairman in the next election. Just kidding. Chad sneered. Living off a woman. What's a kid like you ever going to amount to? You've only got a few good years left. I glared at him. You could have a few more decades and you still wouldn't be as tall as him. Who are you calling, kid? Julian said thoughtfully, that's okay. It's an honor to be liked by her. By the way, sir, I just turned 18. Good luck to you. Chad's face turned black with anger. His girlfriend scoffed, shook off his hand, and walked away. Julian opened the back door for me. Thanks, boss, I whispered as I got close. The man's lips curled into a smile. Get in. I gracefully climbed into the car. Julian got into the driver's seat. He floored the gas. It had rained earlier, and there was a puddle under the tires. The water splashed all over Chad. It was both pathetic and hilarious. Julian tossed out a few $100 bills. Sorry about that. And then, he sped off. Julian dropped me off downstairs. I thanked him again several times. You're welcome. However, I do need an explanation. The man tilted his head slightly. What's this about a sugar baby? I knew it. There was no dodging this. I lowered my head and quietly explained the whole story. For a long time, there was silence in the car. I looked up. The man seemed to have been stunned for a moment. He quickly averted his eyes, his voice a little flustered. "Oh. You can just tell me next time a situation like this comes up. I'm your boss, after all. All this sugar baby talk. It's not very respectable. I really don't want to be your..." His voice trailed off. But I understood. I apologized profusely. "I promise, it won't happen again. I'm sorry for troubling you. Next time, I'll just say I have a rich husband I've been secretly married to for years. He's never home, but he gives me a 7-figure allowance every month." I couldn't help but say what I was really thinking. That was the dream. To my surprise, Julian suddenly scoffed. "Pathetic. A measly 7 figures? How cheap. Anyway, if I ever get married, I'm giving all my money to my wife. I wouldn't keep a single cent for myself. And a secret marriage is out of the question. That's what insecure men do. I would never do something like that. What's with this sudden competitiveness?" I didn't get it. I asked the question that had been nagging me. "Mr. Vance. Do you like me?" A flash of struggle crossed Julian's face, as if he'd been wrestling with it for a long time. He shook his head firmly and ground out, "No. Don't get the wrong idea. You absolutely should not get the wrong idea. I really don't like you. I just see you as a friend, at most. Don't overthink it, and don't you dare quit." I said I understood. "I see you as a friend, too. A rich, handsome friend. Talk about bragging rights." Even though my heart's fluttering a little, he's made himself clear. I have to have some self-awareness. I can't be shameless. I shouldn't have said anything. The moment I did, the man's face fell. He looked unhappy again. In the middle of the night, Julian's social feed updated again. My heart breaks, my tears fall, I am the midnight weeping rose. I thought he still wasn't over his ex-girlfriend. I wanted to tell him to move on. But then again, I was afraid I'd just make things worse. I rolled over, scrolled past it, and pretended I hadn't seen it. Half an hour later, he posted again. "I miss you, but we have nothing to say to each other. But if you just send a one, I'll have things to say again." I ignored it again. Another half an hour passed. Julian got straight to the point, 3 mirror selfies of his abs. Holy crap. I immediately sat up and zoomed in on each picture. So pale, so pink, so lean. And under those gray sweatpants. Damn. I liked the post. As a show of support for my boss, hoping he would continue this great work. The man replied instantly, "So you only make a sound when I posted pics? You animal." Julian went on a business trip. His return date was undecided. My job became so wonderfully relaxed. I wished it could be like this forever. My mom called for the 3rd time. "If you go on a blind date, the family will give you another $1,000,000. Yes, as it turns out, I have a secret identity. The daughter of a tycoon. The lie I told about winning the lottery was actually true. It just happened to my dad. Over the years, he used his sharp mind to make a lot of money. To prevent me from getting a bad attitude about our sudden wealth, my mom decreed that I had to be self-sufficient after college graduation. That's what she said, but if I so much as called her crying poor, she'd sigh and transfer me money anyway. $1,000,000. I did the math. That's another down payment on a house. I agreed. I requested time off from the boss. Julian was probably in a meeting at this hour, so I didn't expect a quick reply. The moment I thought that, a message came through. "What do you need leave for? How many days?" My mom said there were 3 blind dates, so 1 per day. I replied, 3 days should be enough. Julian, okay. Just as I was about to put my phone down, he sent another message. "As a friend, May I ask what you're taking 3 days off for? Me, blind dates. I jokingly added, if one of them works out, I'll invite you to be the officiant at our wedding. Julian was so generous his wedding gift would be huge. I actually started to look forward to it. But before I could even smile, Julian replied, 1 day is enough. No, half a day. Don't get the wrong idea. It's just that the company is really busy. I silently looked up at the snacks and milk tea piled on my desk. Busy? Half a day it was. I chose the afternoon. We met at a coffee shop not far from the office. One that my family owned. The guy's last name was Cheen. He was educated overseas and came from a family of academics. To be honest, I felt like I was out of my league. His manners were impeccable, and you couldn't find a single fault with his looks, family background, or etiquette. I thought about it. If we really did get together, we'd probably have a hard time finding common ground. Preston was very busy. He had taken time out of his schedule to be here today. Are you satisfied with me, Miss Sue? I don't have any strong feelings about marriage. This is mainly to appease my elders. I'm rarely home more than a few times a year. I may neglect you emotionally, but not materially. I will provide a monthly allowance of no less than 7 figures. My dream was coming true. But even though I always fantasized about this, now that it was actually happening, I couldn't bring myself to nod. As I was contemplating this over my coffee, a familiar voice came from behind me. Sophie. I turned around, surprised. How did Julian get back so quickly? He seemed to have run over. His jacket was draped over his arm, his tie was loosened, and he was slightly out of breath. Good-looking people are just built different. Just him standing there, leaning against the wall to catch his breath, was enough to capture the attention of everyone in the shop. Miss Sue, who is this? Preston asked, raising an eyebrow. I looked at Julian walking toward me and replied, he's my boss. The man smiled. Maybe more than that. Since you have something to attend to, I'll be on my way. We can talk again later. This was a polite way of saying the blind date was a bust. I said goodbye. As the two men passed each other, they sized each other up, and then, as if nothing had happened, averted their gazes. Mr. Vance, what are you doing here? Didn't he say he'd be gone for at least a week? Julian knelt down to be at eye level with me. His gaze was serious. I was afraid if I came any later, you'd fall for someone else. What? Does he mean what I think he means? Sophie, I like you. I like you a lot. Please don't like anyone else, okay? I wondered if I was hearing things. Didn't you just say a little while ago that you don't like me? He had said it with such conviction. A guilty look suddenly flashed across Julian's face, mixed with a hint of grievance. Because you said you hated dating coworkers, and that if a boss ever confessed to you, you'd quit. That you'd rather die than fall for someone at the same company. Oh, he was talking about that time in the elevator. Now it was my turn to feel guilty. I rubbed my nose. Well, sometimes accidents can happen. I couldn't help it. Julian was just too charming. I'm only human. How could I resist this temptation? If you like me, why didn't you ever pursue me? Julian lowered his eyes. I was afraid you'd accuse me of harassment. I was still thinking over Julian's confession. There was no rush. He was right here under my nose, after all. In the meantime, I remained a dedicated employee, fulfilling my responsibilities. Mr. Vance, on the other hand, was getting a little restless. He posted pics every day, visible only to me. Once, my own phone died, so I borrowed his to look something up. His search history was all: how to seduce a woman. How to get a woman's attention. Is it okay to be her husband instead of her boss? That day, I drove him home. He insisted on sitting in the passenger seat. We need to talk. I said, okay. My eyes zeroed in on a certain part of a certain person. He must have been working out again recently. His shirt was straining to contain his muscles. Julian crossed his arms. I'm about to get really angry. Can you please stop stringing me along? If you don't like me, just say so. I'm not the type to cling. I thought for a moment. With a serious and cautious expression, I said, okay, I don't like you. Julian froze for a few seconds. He refused to give up. I don't believe you. You answered without even hesitating. You're lying to me. I'll give you one more chance to think it over. I held back a laugh. Julian. Yes? I grabbed his tie and gave it a gentle tug. The man obediently leaned in. Be my boyfriend. A smile spread across the man's lips as he looked down at mine. Okay. Before long, the car windows were completely fogged up. In a moment of lost control, I bit Julian's lip. He yelped in pain. Have mercy, babe. I was genuinely afraid he'd keel over right here, so I didn't dare go all the way. You'd better live a long and healthy life. If I become a widow, I can't guarantee I won't keep a few sugar babies on the side. The man who had been soft and pliant a second ago was suddenly full of vigor. I'm more than fine. Who said I wasn't? I brought up the office rumor about him not living past 25. Julian frowned, turned his face away, and whispered, didn't I just tell them to say I was frail? How did it get so exaggerated? I didn't hear him clearly. What? The man immediately shook his head. Nothing. Continue. Julian, extra. The first day he returned to the country, Julian came back alone. He was very low-key. He didn't notify anyone. His father had sent him to manage this branch of the company. He was planning to grab a coffee to wake himself up. He passed by the glass door of a KFC. A casual glance. He froze. Sophie. The person whose name he had written over and over in his diary all those years ago. Except, it looked like Sophie was recording a video. 1 minute she was making a crooked smile, the next she was baring her teeth, almost as if Julian wasn't the only one who had stopped to watch. A passerby chuckled and pulled out his phone to record. At first, I didn't dare laugh. I thought she might be a person with special needs. This girl is hilarious. A hand blocked his camera lens. Julian said politely, excuse me, she's my friend. Please don't film her. The passerby walked away, looking apologetic. That day, Sophie spent the whole day doing her weird performance art. Julian found a corner to sit in and watched her all day. He thought to himself. This city is great. Because the person he had thought about day and night was here.